in America, you can really go after your dreams. You have a platform here. You have a chance here. And so at that point, it didn't really matter whether I was going to pursue entrepreneurship or work in finance or be a librarian or be a teacher. It didn't matter because in my mind, I was already successful.
That's Rechelle Balanzat, CEO and founder of Juliet. And this is Make Yourself at Home, the podcast that takes you into the homes of people you admire to show you a side you don't usually get to see. I'm Kristen Twyford, and every week we'll talk to someone at the top of their career to explore holistic success and how work and home are inextricably intertwined. Along the way, we hope to inspire you to live well, whatever that means to you. Make Yourself at Home is presented by Nines, the household management app designed to help you manage your home and everything that comes with it, so you can live with ease. Today, we're in Rechelle Balanzat's home in New York City, talking about being relentless and doing everything it takes to make a dream a reality. Rechelle is a solo founder, and her company Juliet is on a mission to bring the laundry and dry cleaning industry into the 21st century by picking up, cleaning, and delivering laundry in 24 hours at the tap of a button. Today, Juliet is thriving and was named one of the Future 5 of New York City Tech by Built in NYC. But getting here hasn't been easy. In 2016, Rechelle struggled to support the business and herself. Then, just after Juliet took off, they lost 90% of their revenue at the onset of COVID-19. Through it all, Rechelle refused to give up on her dream. And she says starting with nothing helped her find strength from within, a strength that's helped her overcome every personal and professional challenge along the way. Make Yourself at Home with Rechelle Balanzat. Rechelle, thank you so much for being on Make Yourself at Home. Thank you for welcoming us into your home. To start out, tell me a little bit about where you're sitting, and you have a beautiful Christmas tree up behind you. For anybody who's not watching and they're just listening, they have to go check out the YouTube version so they can see. But tell me a little bit about where you're sitting and why you love your home.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here. I'm a big believer in that our homes are sacred places. So I'll start off with that. And every morning I start here. This is the dining table, and I have a view of the New York City skyline. I'm in Midtown, so I just see all these buildings and I see the skyline, and it gets me energized to start my day. So it's the dining room, it's my office table when I'm here, it's where I cook, it's where I host friends. And it's the living room, dining room, kitchen situation because in New York City, apartments are tiny.
So true. And tell me a little bit about your tree. It looks so beautiful.
Yeah. So my tree just went up this morning. I knew I wanted to celebrate the holidays on this conversation with you and with everyone. I love the holiday spirit, and I love the smell of Christmas in the home. It's just so warming when I come home and I smell the tree. It's just got lights and balls, and I hung everything up this morning because my Amazon delivery came late, but it is what it is.
You got it all done. It's all good. Well, it looks beautiful. Good. Tell me a little bit about what home means to you.
Home is a place where you refresh, restart, and re-energize. And my home is my home base. It's where I come to rest. It's where I lay my bed, where I lay my head down at night. And it's where I replenish myself physically. It's where I eat, it's where I cook, it's where I sleep, and it's my private time. It's my personal time with my personal relationships. And that's what home means to me.
And how does that fuel you? I know you are such a hard worker and such a high achiever. And so for you to have that space, that physical place, but also that sort of mental space to recharge, what does that mean to you?
It gives me clarity of mind, and it gives me the ability to focus on my intentions. I think in today's fast-paced lifestyle, we get pulled in so many different directions. We have so many different obligations and responsibilities. And so when I come home and I'm able to refocus and realign my energies, then I can remember, okay, this is what I have to do today, this week, this month, this year with my life.
Exactly. And on our prep call, you mentioned to me that you spend 2 hours a day meditating. Tell me about that. 2 hours seems like so much time. And so I am so curious about how you got into this and what it means to you, what it gives you, that those 2 hours a day.
Sure. So it's the moment that I open my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I start, breathing, just do like a mental check on, in the past, I would just get up and go. But now I give those 20 minutes to myself just to breathe through what I have to do today. And the last 45 minutes before I go to bed. So in the past that I would be catching up on work or emails or, my to-do list, but now it's my, I think they call it sleep hygiene. So before I go to bed, that I use that time to breathe, meditate, listen to calming music, and I do it throughout the day. So when I feel stressed or overwhelmed, I'll give myself 5, 10 minutes just to stop, close my eyes and breathe, or look out the window. Some people think it's daydreaming, but actually what it's doing, it's that it's refueling me. It's like my gas tank is running on low. Maybe I don't have enough sleep, maybe I don't have enough food, maybe there's too much things to do, that I need that break to just refuel myself so then I can continue on with my day. So that's what it does for me.
And being an entrepreneur, I think, takes so much of yourself, that mental energy, the time of you have to put in to build your business. And I know that early on you put in so much time to build Juliet. And for anybody who doesn't know, you really are taking on this huge mission of disrupting this age-old industry of laundry and dry cleaning. And you've been working on it for over 9 years. And I'm sure it's hard not to lose yourself in that work. So how do you kind of make sure that you're getting that time for yourself and making sure that you push yourself to take the time to meditate or to take a break?
I focus on the intention and I focus on the end goal. So you said, disrupt an industry. And everyone has a different goal that just so happens to be my professional goal. And so I try to remember the end goal daily, and then I break it down into bite-sized pieces. Now, the trick is that the bite-sized piece usually takes 1 year to accomplish. So it's like, okay, you want to accomplish X, release a new AI feature. That was one of the big things that we released this year. It took 1 year of testing, 1 year of prototyping, and this year we released it. So it took me 3 years to release one feature, but that little feature disrupts an entire industry, And so one of the things that I like to do is just remember that things don't happen overnight. It takes time and patience. And that's why it's so important to have that check in with yourself and breathe through it and meditate and remember, what is it you're trying to do? What is it you're trying to accomplish? Because chances are it's not going to happen overnight. You really have to focus on what is the end goal and sort of backtrack.
Right. What about this mission really resonated with you? If you take me back to the very beginning, what about it excited you? What made you think, okay, I'm going to give this my all. I think I'm the person to do this.
Yeah, that's a great question. People are always like, why laundry and dry
Yeah.
cleaning? Because it's so labor intensive. It's not sexy at all. It's not fun at all. Actually, no one likes to do laundry. And that is true, but see, that is the opportunity. So there's the labor part of it, the labor intensive, oh, it's a chore, it's a hassle to carry my clothes up and down, whatever. But I love the fashion aspect of it. I love looking at people's clothes. I love taking care of all their outfits, and I love cleaning their clothes and repairing their clothes, and they send their precious items to me. And I love that whole experience. And years ago, before I started Juliet, I noticed that part, that experiential part, where where it's it sits between PR, marketing, and customer service, client relations, concierge service, fashion service, plus technology and lifestyle. You know, that those two pieces, technology and lifestyle, was missing from the entire industry. And because I love those pieces put together, I know that I'm the right person for this job. And I truly enjoy, the fashion part. I enjoy the lifestyle part. I enjoy the convenience of it. And I was solving a problem for myself. Why can't my laundry and dry cleaning just be picked up, cleaned, and delivered at the tap of a button? It's so easy. Just do it for me. So that's my mission, and I just want to scale it and bring my technology to other parts of America and the world and build a brand along the way.
Yep. Amazing. And you've written about how you started really with nothing. So take me back to the beginning and where you were in your own life that made you think, okay, I'm going to start a business and take on this crazy problem.
Um, it goes back a little bit. It goes
Yeah.
back to actually 2008 when the market crashed,
Mm-hmm.
and I was working in finance at that time, and I was just chasing the highest paid salary because, I was young and all I wanted to do was make money. When the market crashed and I saw the effects it had on the people around me who were infinitely smarter than me, infinitely better than me, and they were shaken by it. And seeing them scared and seeing my coworkers really nervous and crying when they lost their jobs impacted me. And it taught me that stability is an illusion. It doesn't exist. There is no such thing as a safety net. And I think we all experienced that again when COVID happened in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
All our entire world turned upside down. And I was reminded of the '08 crash when everyone's lives were turned upside down. So that mentality really started to awaken the entrepreneur inside of me. And it started to make me realize that, you know what, even though I come from a very humble background and my family always taught me to go after, stability and a 401k and a salary and you need health insurance, I understand where those lessons come from.
Yeah.
But I'm reminded that, just because you have all of those things, you can lose it at any time. And so if you could lose things at any time, why don't you just go after something that really inspires you? Why don't you go after something where you would do it for free? Because in the early years of entrepreneurship, there's a lot of sacrifices and
Yeah.
obstacles and challenges. And you need to dig deep and ask yourself, why am I doing this if I don't have the X, Y, and Z that relate to stability?
Mm-hmm.
So that fueled me on my journey. And so when I started off, even though I didn't have funding, I didn't have partners, I didn't have a laundromat, just knowing that you could figure things out. And everything is, if you really think about it, you can figure things out.
Yep.
So that's what I did. I cold called, I worked my network, I worked my relationships, I built out the technology through a relationship. I found partners to help me with the facility and operations and the marketing, and I did everything without funding. But all of that fire was lit up when the market crashed in '08. And that was the
Mm-hmm.
first time that I understood, wow, stability is an illusion.
And I want to talk about that part even more. So, thinking about your parents and what they wanted for you and what you kind of expected success to look like as a kid. If you think back to growing up and what your mindset was around success, tell me a little bit about where that mindset came from and what their mindset was.
So I was born in the Philippines, where things like, in certain parts of the country, there is no running water. In certain parts of the country, there is no, we would call it blackout because they would just cut off the electricity, or random times throughout the day, the electricity would go out because they're called slums, and you would tap into the electrical grid illegally, and sometimes they would just cut the power, and so you would see entire parts of, if you live there, your electricity would just go out. And I remember having jugs, like this massive jug that we left outside to collect rainwater. And if you wanted to take a shower, then you would take a little bucket, and that's how you would shower yourself. So when you're in that type of environment, success to you is, wow, running water, electricity, and instead of a tin roof and, like cement blocks, maybe you just want like a pretty roof and like a brick house, So your perspective of what success is very different.
Right.
So that was the mentality that I had growing up. When I came to America, then I really thought I had made it, because wow, there's electricity, there's water everywhere,
Right.
and oh my, and you could drink the water from the faucet, because in the Philippines you have to boil the water first to kill all the bacteria before you drink it. There is no such thing as, it's a luxury to purchase bottled water. So that affects mindset and perspective. And my family was like, education. My mother always used to tell me, education is the one thing no one can ever take away from you. So pursue your education, make a life for yourself. We're setting you up because, at least in America, you can really go after your dreams. You have a platform here. You have a chance here. And so at that point, it didn't really matter whether I was going to pursue entrepreneurship or work in finance or be a librarian or be a teacher. It didn't matter, because in my mind, I was already successful.
Can you remember coming here, and how old were you when you first came to the US?
I was 3.
3. Okay. So what are your earliest memories of coming here? Do you have any surprises that you remember, or anything that was like, oh, wow, I can't believe this?
Yeah. So my first language is Tagalog from the Philippines. And I came to America, and it's always spoke at home. And then I had to enroll in kindergarten, which is age 5. And they're like, okay, you have to speak English now. And I was like, what? Like, I just remember being terrified and scared. And I wish I could remember how I learned the language so fast. I just remember being afraid going into this environment, not understanding what they were saying. But I guess when you're a child, your mind is so open and so malleable that I picked up the language immediately. I wish I had that same quality now as an adult, to just be thrown someplace and just learn the language. But that was one of my earliest memories, was coming here and being like, what are you saying?
Yes.
What's going on?
Right. Yeah, and I feel like that is such an interesting early lesson of, well, you can figure this out. You can find a way to make it. And with your business, like, it was sort of a big insurmountable problem, but then you said, no, I'm just going to figure it out. Do you think that experience really shaped how you tackle problems now, and how you approach any situation in your life where, like, I'll figure it out?
Absolutely. My mother always used to say, where there's a will, there's a way. And ultimately, it comes down to that. I think when I first started the company, I was really gung-ho on fundraising, and I need an investor, and it's a tech startup and this and that. And when that journey didn't pan out the way I wanted it to pan out, I had a choice. I could either just give up, or I could forge ahead and figure it out. And 9 times out of 10, that's all you have to do, is just forge ahead and figure it out. The lack of resources or lack of X should never stop you from what you really want.
So having this big goal, you set out to learn the industry. And I feel like that is kind of a gamble, where it's like you have this exciting opportunity that really is one of those things that kind of connects with your soul, where you're like, okay, this is something I can get behind. But then to actually enjoy the work, I think, could have gone either way. Like, you might have really enjoyed the process of doing the laundry, or you might not have. And so when you first started out. Tell me a little bit about how you learned the trade and how you felt about it. Did you just kind of fall down the rabbit hole and start to really enjoy the art of the laundry that you were doing?
Oh gosh. So when I first started,
Yeah.
so I was working at this laundromat, and it's not glamorous at all. It's You're dealing with people's dirty clothes. And in the beginning, my mother came to help, and my grandmother, and a few family members, and they were looking at me like, what did I pay for all of this college education for you to sit here and do people's laundry? You know, um, it was it was a learning experience, but I'll tell you this: going through it is not easy, and I really had to understand why I was doing it. And I learned from, I learned from an operator who was in laundry and dry cleaning, and he taught me all the tricks. And now that I think back on it, it actually gives me a lot of pride, and it lets me know that when push comes to shove, I can still roll up my sleeves and get things done, which I think is such an important quality to have if you are going to pursue something like entrepreneurship. Because as an entrepreneur, you're wearing many different hats. You're not only responsible for the lofty vision and goal of the company, you're also responsible for the labor force and the task and quality control and how do people experience your product or your service. And you can't rely on another person to know that for you. You have to inherently know what the value is that your company brings to the world. So, in figuring out what that value is, you have to experience all those ugly things about the business. And that's just the way it is. Unless you can pay someone to figure out the ugly things for you, most of the time you have to do it yourself.
And tell me the story of sort of those early days of getting your hands dirty. You know, you have this big idea and then you have to figure it out. So, what were your first steps? And tell me a little bit about the people that you met along the way who helped you.
So I cold called a bunch of laundromats saying, "Hey, I have this idea." And I was so excited because I thought my idea was amazing. No one thought it was amazing. They just thought I was crazy. So
Wow.
I just cold called like, oh, it's an app and it's going to pick up clothes and it's going to be so easy. And do you want to participate? They're like, no. And everyone just hung up on me. And then there was this one guy who sort of entertained the idea, like maybe you have an idea. And that was it. He didn't say yes to me. I just showed up the next day. I showed up the next day and I basically said to him, I'm here and I'm going to work for you for free. And that was the deal that we came to. And I was like, I'm not going to leave unless you teach me everything. And in exchange, I will be your assistant. I will work for you for free. And I had to, oh my goodness, I had to open up at 6 a.m. I had to sweep the floors. I had to smell a lot of dirty laundry. I had to go through that entire learning experience with him. But that's what it took. That's what my very early days looked like. And at the same time, I was doing market research. Like, okay, what is it like from the moment the clothes come in till the moment the clothes go out? I had to learn that experience.
And then you were able to channel all of that into now, you know, building this startup and it started to really take off. You put a lot of time into it. And then in 2020, when you're really starting to hit your stride, you have this just absolutely catastrophic moment when COVID happens and people stop dry cleaning their clothes. So tell me a little bit about that moment. Take me back to March 2020 and how you were feeling in that moment.
Oh, that was terrible. It was a terrible time for everyone, for the world. Aside from the fact that lives were being lost and lives were being put at risk every day, professionally, we took a 90% hit in our revenue because most of dry cleaning comes from people going into work with their suits on or with their outfits on, or going to social functions because they have a tux on or a gown on. That's what feeds the dry cleaning industry. So when you had work from home and no social functions, it killed us. But most cleaners in New York City, at least, are brick and mortar, and they are dependent on foot traffic. And so a lot of them suffered even more because they were dependent on foot traffic. I was able to sustain and stay alive because of our technology, because of our communication strategy, and because we have an online presence. People found us. And because we were already contactless, cashless, and convenient pre-pandemic, we that became an even more important feature in March of 2020 when people were, still needing to have their clothes cleaned because most New Yorkers don't have a washer dryer in their apartment, let alone in their buildings. So they were using us for that. Our dry cleaning revenue took a really big hit, but our wash and fold and our laundry revenue increased. So that helped us keep the lights on. And having our technology helped us keep the lights on. And it actually helped us to acquire and gain market share for the past 2 years when other cleaners who did not have a tech platform, they could not continue business because they had no way of communicating with their customers, and they were dependent on foot traffic when everyone just wanted to stay home. So that's what 2020 and 2021 looked like for us.
Wow. And running a startup is always going to be a ton of pressure, but in this case, you've really put so much of yourself into it and you put so much time into it, and this business was personal to you. And so in 2020, how were you feeling both as a founder and as, somebody as a boss, worrying about their employees, but then for yourself, you didn't sign up for stability, but at the same time, you really wanted this business to succeed and your heart was in it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really painful. I needed to replenish my war chest because it's like going to war. You're going to fight for survival now. If I'm going to fight for the survival of my company and what I'm doing, what do I have to fight with if I don't have any money?
Mm-hmm.
So this is where I had a moment of inspiration, and I remembered, okay, when you go without, you have to go within. That was one of the biggest lessons. So I went within myself and I asked, what do I have that no one else has? What is the one thing that only I have, that only I can bring to the world? And it was my story. And so that's when I wrote the book. And that was a product of the pandemic and, reflecting on what it was like building this company, going through entrepreneurship as a solo founder, and what that obstacle is like. But that's where my mindset was in 2020.
Right. Yeah. And I want to hear more about that because I think what you just said is really interesting. Like that solo founder, it feels like it's all on you. And you spent so much time building this business by yourself, like teaching yourself that trade and starting with nothing. Like you had a lot to give, but it was just from yourself, your own time, your own money, your own mental energy. And so it's all riding on you. So then when you shared that story, what did that mean to you? And what did you want people to know about that?
Such a deep question. Regardless of circumstances, regardless of resources, lack of X should never stop you. It shouldn't. Unfortunately, it just makes it that much more difficult. But I want people to know that they could overcome their challenges. And you don't need anything else except yourself. And this is why, going back to the topic of home and why my home is so sacred and why I'm so protective of my mental energy, my physical energy, and why sleeping and eating right is so important, because this is where your wealth is. Health is wealth. Your health is what gives you whatever it is you need to pursue your dreams, whatever your dreams are. And that's
Hmm.
what I wanted to share with the world when I wrote that book.
And how do you feel like your home really carried you through these tough moments of building your business?
My home is my safe space. I love
Yeah.
looking out the window and daydreaming. I feel very safe at home, which I think is
Hmm.
important. And safe is like where you could just be yourself. You could you don't have you could just be yourself. You don't have to look a certain way. You don't have to talk a certain way. I walk around in like this very thick, fluffy fleece robe, and that it just comforts me, and that's home, and no one ever sees me in that
Hmm.
robe, and no one's supposed to except my home because it's where I feel the most safe. And then I have these matching thick fleece socks with like bunny ears, and I call them my bunnies because they keep my feet warm, and that's home. Home is comfort. Home is safety, That's home.
Absolutely. And early on, when you were building this business, it sounds like you didn't have too much time to just enjoy your home. Tell me a little bit about what your life was like and how you were kind of putting it all on the line early on.
Well, um, early on, I didn't, it was very difficult to produce the cash that was not only going to carry the company forward, but sustain my living expenses. And so I was evicted, because I could no longer afford to pay rent. And I was like hanging on, like, well, maybe, just, I don't honestly can't even tell you what was going through my head except that um, it was a dark time in my life, and I needed to get over it. Sorry, I needed to go through it, not over it, because I didn't get over it. I just went through it. And I walked that difficult time, and I learned from that difficult time. I picked myself up very slowly. I never shut the company down. I just moved out of the apartment and I moved back in with my mom. And I think I took a year to figure out what I was going to do. But in that whole time, we never stopped operations. I never stopped the company. I continued to service people, even if it was on my back, if it was on me doing a lot of the labor. Um, but you figure it out, and then I think I did that, and then I got a random phone call from a family friend who was selling one of their locations. And he said, I'm getting rid of one of my locations. Are you interested? And because he was a family friend and because he knew me and he knew my work ethic, he made it attainable for me. He worked with me on funding, he worked with me on the payback, and he made it attainable for someone like me. So sometimes you don't know the solution. Sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. In those moments, though, it can be very dark and difficult, but just sit through it. Don't panic. Those terrible things, those bad things happen to all of us. For me, it was an eviction, it was a credit agency. It's a bad thing that happened to me, but bad things happen to people all the time. And you just got to go through it and deal with it and fix it. It took me years to fix my credit, but now I have perfect credit, and now I understand how important it is to have financial stability.
Right.
And you know, but that's what it was like when it was really difficult in the beginning.
And so, in that moment, in sort of your lowest of lows, what kept you holding on? What made you say, no, this is still worth it, and I am still going to keep this running no matter what it takes?
It's my dream. And the only person who can make your dreams come true is you.
Hmm. Early on in this conversation, you mentioned how New York, you wake up in the morning and you look out the window and you feel like anything is kind of possible. What does New York mean to you? And what does it mean to you in terms of your dream? I know it's been an incredibly important part of your business, but more deeply for you, what does New York being home mean to you now?
Yeah, New York is opportunity, it's hustle, it's
Yeah.
energy, it's people, it's connections, it's electricity. You walk out the street, you meet new people every day, and the relationships can happen at any moment, at any place. And that's what makes it so magical. That's what New York means to me. Sometimes I get invited to something that, maybe I wasn't that excited about. But then I have an amazing experience because I meet someone amazing, and then I have a new friend or someone that I could, collaborate with, or they introduce me to more people. And I think that the magic of New York is the people. You have people from all walks of life here. And I love, it's a high low world. You have people who are just starting out, and then you have people who have made it. And we're all just walking along side by side in this city. And at any moment, your worlds collide and something magical can happen. That's what New York means to me. That's why I love it here so much.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And now, do you feel like you've made it? Is this the dream that you had imagined, or what are you striving for now?
The yes, I am living my dream. Um, I think I will always push myself to do more, to give more, to accomplish more because I don't want to stop and I still have the energy and I love the journey. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, that is the ultimate prize because doing something that I love every day is a dream come true.
So, when you think about living this dream that you had and you put in so much work early on, were there aha moments where you looked around and you thought, wow, I can't believe I'm here? Can you think of one or two that you remember that meant a lot to you?
Yeah, so many. So this year I became a board member for the International Dry Cleaning Institute,
Wow.
and I became the youngest board member as and youngest female board member.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting in on those meetings and attending the dinners and the conferences and sitting at the table with other industry leaders who have been operators for generations. Their grandfather and their grandparents ran the business, and then now their parents, now they're running the business, and they control entire regions of the country when it comes to laundry and dry cleaning. And I was sitting there amongst them, and I was very intimidated. And I couldn't believe that I could engage with them, that they were even interested in what I had to say or my take on things. But I was just so honored and humbled because now they are my friends or acquaintances, and now I tap into them when I have a question about anything that relates to laundry or dry cleaning. I'll give you an example. We took care of a tuxedo by Giorgio Armani, and it had a satin lapel. And something happened along the way, and the satin lapel was no longer as shiny as it once was. And our client was very upset because it was his wedding tuxedo, and he only wore it one time. Now, shame on me, right? But because I had that network of other amazing operators, they helped me, and we were able to bring that tuxedo back to life. And now the client is so happy. And so having those relationships, sitting at that table and really tapping into their knowledge because they know so much more than me, having them on my side is just truly amazing. And I can't believe that I can call them they're
Right.
just in my phone, and I can just call them anytime and ask them a question about stain removal.
That is really nice. And I can imagine, your business is such a personal thing to you and it is your dream. But for these families who it's been their livelihood for generations and their businesses are probably tied very closely to their own dreams, and have you faced hostility from people who have been doing this for decades when you're a newcomer coming in as an outsider and saying, I'm going to change the whole industry? I can imagine that they almost take that personally in some cases, and to be welcomed by them must be incredibly meaningful.
Yes, yes. In very early on, I there were barriers to entry
Yeah.
and a lot of just, I would say, maybe suspicion on their part on
Mm-hmm.
who is this girl, and why does she think she can do this job better than me? you
Right.
know, from their take. Um, in that moment, those relationships never pan out. They just don't work out. But the beauty of this industry and any industry is that it isn't a one size fits all. There are many players in the industry. And for those who don't want to be a part of that journey with you, then they're just not a part of the journey with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I when that would happen to me, I just went to the next one and I would ask, "Hey, I have this idea. Do you want to work on this with me?" Or, "Hey, what do you think?" And you just keep it moving, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't take anything personal. And I understand where they're coming from. I let it be known that I'm not here to compete or take business away from them. I simply am trying to elevate the industry as a whole. And how can we make this entire industry better for every American through the use of technology? And so slowly, that's an ongoing dialogue. It takes years to implement change. But the ones who are for it, they're my friends, they're supporters, and nothing can be done alone. You always need people to support you. And I'm thankful to now be a part of this community of industry leaders, and really honored to be an industry leader myself in their eyes.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Yeah, and I'm sure like for some of them it's an art, right? I know you've acquired another business that is about the art of Chinese laundry. So tell me a little bit about that and sort of the respect that you have for this age-old industry and why you're kind of coming to them as somebody who wants to help them rather than compete with them.
Oh my goodness. I'm so happy you brought that up, because it's a forgotten art. There's so much history behind laundry in America, which dates back to the gold rush, when people were going to California and they were chomping away looking for gold, but it was mostly men, and they didn't have women to do the laundry. And you had all types of men come, and you had a lot of Chinese immigrants come as well, but they wouldn't allow them to even work in the mines. They only gave them the job of laundry. So the industry started there. The way they did laundry was with their hands. Everything was hand washed, and then everything was hand pressed and hand packed. And because they couldn't speak the language, they would take red paint, put it on their hands, and then put it on the outside of their storefront or store or shop to show hand laundry. So that's really the beginning of laundry. And then fast forward to the pandemic, and you have, at its height in America, you have about 30,000 Chinese hand laundries. And it is a very specific way of doing laundry because it's pressed by hand, and we have the original iron. It's it's actually iron. These old irons you would put on top of fire, and it would heat up the metal, and then you would press the clothes. And it's a certain way of folding the clothes and packing the clothes, because then we pack it in brown paper and tie it with twine string. So it's this very beautiful experience. And when I met her, she, runs one of the Chinese laundries in New York.
Mm-hmm.
She was very, um, she did not like the idea of 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 me being a part of her family legacy because
Right.
it was her grandfathers and her father, and it was a family business, and I wasn't a part of the family, and she took it a certain way. But over time, it took us a few years to get over that hurdle. And once I earned her trust and she understood that I was not going to just put technology on top of her service and make it available to the masses, I wanted to do the opposite. I wanted to preserve her family legacy. And in telling that story, shed light on the Chinese immigration story and what it was like coming to America and how an industry was built on their backs. When she understood that, then she was like, okay. Yes, and now we work together every day. I acquired her business, and she is training my team, and we're going through the transition of how can we revitalize this lost art of Chinese laundry and bring it to more New Yorkers. But she is one of my biggest supporters now, and I'm one of her biggest fans. And I want to just preserve everything that her family, and all of those immigrants have done for laundry.
Wow. And I'm sure that's incredibly personal to you as an immigrant yourself, being able to, share this legacy and then to help, all these families sort of celebrate their stories, how personal and how meaningful for you.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're all immigrants. We all have that story, or we can all relate to the idea of going to a new place in pursuit of something greater. So that plot line is definitely relatable, relevant, and personal for me.
Well, thank you so much. This has been such a lovely conversation, and I want to get into our lightning round of fun questions. So, to start
Oh
out,
boy.
this is going to be fun. What's one piece of clothing that you own that you treasure?
Oh, my robe.
I love
My
it. Full
robe.
circle.
My robe, I love it so much. And I have so many too. I've got like different silk robes. I have the fleece robe. It all depends on, but it's just, I wish I could walk outside in a robe because it's so comfortable.
It's New York City. You can do anything you want.
You're right. You're right. You're right. But definitely my robe. Yeah.
Love that answer. I have a guess, but what's one household chore that you hate and what's one that you don't mind doing?
Oh, I hate doing the dishes.
Hmm.
And I don't mind doing the laundry.
That's what I would have figured.
Yeah, I do the laundry every day. And I just, what's the best feeling? The best feeling is when you come out of the shower and your towel just came from the dryer.
I
That's so
love
good.
it.
Yeah.
What's something about the person you are at home or your habits at home that you think would surprise people?
Remember in the beginning, I said I meditate a lot.
Hmm.
I think when people think of meditation, maybe they're thinking it's, I sit in the corner and I woosah and, and I close my eyes and I align with the energies. But
Hmm.
if you actually were to look at me meditating, it really looks like I'm daydreaming.
Hmm.
So it could, now that I'm thinking about it, it probably looks a little bit creepy because I'm just sitting in the chair staring out. I probably look like a crazy person, but that's what meditation looks like for me. And you would probably be surprised at how much time I spend just staring out the window, um, quote unquote meditating, daydreaming, realigning my energies, whatever you want to call
Yes, I love
it.
it. Hmm. What's one thing in your home that makes your life easier?
The dishwasher.
Hmm.
Oh, you know what? Wi-Fi. If you don't have strong Wi-Fi, forget about it. Wi-Fi actually runs my home.
Yep. What's one ritual that you keep in your home that's really important to you?
It's my morning ritual. I brought it because I wanted to show and
Yeah,
tell.
let's show
But
and
this
tell.
is coconut shell, that I kind of use also as like an ashtray for sage. Do you know
Uh-huh.
what sage is?
Yeah.
So I burn sage. I also burn a lot of Palo Santo in the morning, and it produces a smoke that helps me focus my thoughts. And I stare at that smoke, and it just calms me down. But that is a ritual that I do daily that is very sacred to me.
Wow. Who's someone you admire who you think really lives well?
Richard Branson, he just built a rocket ship and went out to outer space because he wanted to. And, he does things because he wants to or because he
Hmm.
believes in it. And he's good. I never met him, but he totally seems like a killer businessman who also equally enjoys life.
Hmm.
And that's why I think that was the part of your question that made me change my answer. Because if you had asked the question a different way, I would have given you a different answer. But you said
Interesting.
live well. It's someone who does what they do and they live well. Richard Branson.
Love it. And what inspires you to live better?
Family is very important to me. And so when I think about my professional life,
Hmm.
I don't get to spend a lot of time with family because I spend so much of my time at work. But what inspires me to live better, which I interpret as taking care of my health, is my family. I want to be around to, enjoy time with my family because I don't get to see them every day. I want to make sure that I have many, many years to enjoy time with them. So
Hmm.
they inspire me to take care of my health and live well.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Rechelle. This has been really wonderful, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us and to have us into your home.
Likewise, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you to Rechelle Balanzat for welcoming us today. Follow along with Rechelle on Instagram at iRechelle and at Juliet Laundry. I'm Kristen Twyford, and if you enjoyed our conversation, I hope you'll subscribe to Make Yourself at Home and leave us a review. Thanks to everyone who's listened to Make Yourself at Home in 2022. We'll be back in the new year with new episodes every other week, starting January 12th. Make Yourself at Home is presented by Nines, household management software that helps you manage your properties and everything that comes with them, so you can make the most of your time at home. Learn more at ninesliving.com.